Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it's the 12th of September 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So a big announcement out of the Go Ethereum team today. So they've said here, it's been 6 years in the making, but Geth version 1.13.0 with proper state pruning is finally released. Now, of course, there is an accompanying blog post here that you can go give a read to see what all this is about. But essentially, what this is about is making the blockchain smaller. So if you're running a full node, basically, if you want to prune a Geth full node on the non-version 1.13 versions, you would have to stop the chain. Basically, you would have to stop your full node, do the pruning, and then come back online. At least that's my understanding of it. Now with this new version, you no longer have to do that, and it just does pruning in real time. Now, I believe this is a feature that Nethermind has had for a little while, and obviously, Go Ethereum or Geth has the Geth team has been working on this for a little while now to get it to this state. But also, it's not just about that; it's about the fact that all the work they've put into it is detailed here, and how much work it actually took for them to essentially get it to this spot. And you can actually see a timeline of events on the blog post as well. It's just a huge undertaking considering that, the Geth client has been around for a very long time now. It's basically been around since day one of Ethereum. And there's a lot of technical debt there, obviously, because of that. And it is a slow moving beast. It definitely, Geth being the majority of the execution layer, they definitely don't want to move fast on it, right? They don't want to release things that could potentially break the network or could potentially lead to bugs in their client. So obviously a lot of testing, a lot of slow movement here. And definitely it seems to have paid off now with their newest release here. So I don't know if I'd encourage people to rush to update just yet. As I said, it is a new kind of release. It is a big release. If you're running Geth right now and you don't want to be you don't want to be on the latest version just because you may not believe that it's stable yet or anything like that, you don't have to upgrade. Your older version will work just fine. But of course, with the Denkun upgrade coming soon, there will be updates to these clients in order to enable the Denkun upgrade, so you're probably going to get bumped up to this version anyway. But in saying all of that, I mean, I don't want to jinx it or anything like that, but there's been extensive testing done on this over time. And if anything was to go wrong, I'm sure that they would fix it pretty much immediately. Yeah, you can go check this out for yourself, this blog post with the full technical details about what they've actually done here over the last few years. And just congrats to the Geth team on a major release here. But this is also a good opportunity to let you guys know that you should definitely probably change off Geth if you are running Geth, because it's still the majority client. But in saying that, it's kind of a catch-22, right? Where it's like, okay, Geth is the majority client because it is the safest, the been around for the longest. It's the most reliable. People trust it. People know how to kind of use it. People are used to it. But at the same time, it's the majority of, well, it's kind of hard to tell, but it is maybe not the majority at this state, or I guess depending on which way you look at it, but it is a large part of the network. And obviously, Geth being so large, if there was a critical bug in it that caused Geth to go offline for whatever reason, it would cause the beacon chain to suffer from that. It would cause Ethereum to suffer from that generally. So obviously, client diversity is critically important here. But if you're already running Geth and you're like a solo staker, look, if I'm being honest, I think that when it comes to things like client diversity, you as a solo staker, you're not really going to make a dent, right? Yes, you should be running things that aren't Geth, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I guess from the perspective of how big of a deal is it if you run Geth versus another client as a solo staker, probably not that big, because there were estimates put out there that solo stakers, including rocket pool node operators, made up 7% of the network. So it's still obviously a nice chunk there and critically important. But let's just say that all that 7% was running Geth, and then, for example, Coinbase was running 100% Geth, and then they changed from Geth to something else. Coinbase has 10% of the market share, right? So them changing from Geth to something else would do more for the network than this all the solo stakers, including the rocket pool node operators, changing. In saying that, that shouldn't be taken as me saying people should rest on their laurels and not change. If you're running Geth, and you might be looking at another client, you can go with Nethermind. I think the order of kind of recommendations at this stage would be, in terms of running it, in terms of the most reliability. Geth and Nethermind are pretty much neck and neck for me. Then I would go Besu, then Aragon, then Reth. Reth is still alpha client software. It wouldn't even run Reth in a production environment, especially not if you're connecting validators to it, just because it's so early. But Geth or Nethermind is fine. Preferably Nethermind, obviously for client diversity reasons. But as I said, as a solo staker, it is not a critical thing in my mind. I think it is definitely a high priority thing, but it's not a critical thing for the average solo staker. But if you do know the bigger stakers out there and you're involved with them and know their team members and you know that they're running Geth, encourage them to switch. Client diversity is obviously critically important, and we want to get the big staking providers and the big staking pools to ensure that they switch over from Geth here. But anyway, you can read the full details about this. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, we have the latest Ethereum Cat Herders update talking about all things Denkun, and I guess like they've said here what they're talking about: Denkun, dev meetings, different EIPs, public goods funding, and other community updates. So you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. Nothing new on the Denkun front. I think I've discussed pretty much everything that's recent on the Denkun front of things. And the next all-core devs call, I believe, is September 13th, I think, from memory, which is tomorrow, I guess. It was actually, the date was given in this post here, but I've lost it now. But yeah, I think it's obviously this week sometime, just don't know the exact date there. I think that's where we're going to get a decision on whether that churn limit AIP will be included. And then we may get some talk around when we're going to start forking the testnets, as I mentioned yesterday. But other than that, there's not really much to report on when it comes to Denkun right now, but Ethereum Cat Herders also went over a bunch of things that people are doing in the public goods funding space, such as ENS Octant, which is got the Golem Foundation's kind of spin out that has a lot of the Golem Foundation's ETH being staked, and people can kind of vote on where the rewards from that staked ETH go, like what public goods they go to. They did a recap of Gitcoin grants round 18 and a bunch of other community updates here as well. So you can go check this out for yourself. We'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, Mike Nuda is out with a fresh, I guess, like not ETH research post, but a fresh kind of like little post here today with ideas around something called two-tiered staking, which is a proposal from Dankrad presenting a hypothetical native liquid staking token design. So you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But essentially, I guess this has been a topic of discussion, especially over the last few months, about Ethereum basically enshrining an LST into its protocol. So essentially having like, let's call it ETH, for example, and that would be the only LST, and then everyone would have access to that same LST, so it would be an enshrined one. You wouldn't have like STETH and RETH and CBETH and whatever. You would just have ETH. But I was having a discussion with someone in the Daily Gwei Discord channel about this. I don't think the issues that we see with the staking ecosystem arise from there being different LSTs. I think the issues arise from just different incentives and different kind of like node centralization points. So, for example, if we had ETH, and there was no other LSTs, there was no competition for LSTs, and all ETH was equal. Like every single ETH was equal. There was no kind of like special privileges depending on the node operator. I actually think that would be a more centralizing force, because what would happen is that everyone would just go with the, I guess, like provider that is most competitive on fees and the provider that's juicing the token rewards, right? Because if you look at it at the current staking ecosystem today, you have, in terms of like the top stakers, you have Lido, the centralized exchanges, Rocket Pool, and then a kind of long tail there of other LSTs and other entities there. But if everyone was on ETH, there would be no Lido, right? There would be no Rocket Pool. What you would have is that you'd have centralized exchanges, and then those centralized exchanges would be able to offer the most seamless staking experience, right? And they would have access to the same ETH as everyone else. So they wouldn't be competing on the LST anymore. They'd be competing on fees, yield, obviously, but that's impacted by fees as well. And also they could just juice their juice their rewards in some way. Maybe they set their fees to 0 for a little while, or maybe another project comes along and says, well, I'm just going to do kind of like token incentives on top of this. So at the end of the day, I don't think that having many LSTs is the issue here. And I don't think an enshrined LST would actually fix that. I think, we need to fix, obviously, just the different points of node operator centralization. And the biggest point of node operator centralization is the capital requirement barrier to entry, because most people will never have 32 ETH in order to become a full solo staker. Many people won't have 8 ETH and a little bit of RPL that's required for Rocket Pool right now to become a node operator, but they can buy RETH, right, to still get exposure to ETH staking. Same with Lido, for example. They can buy STETH, or they can stake with Lido, centralized exchange. You can buy CBETH, or you can mint CBETH. Obviously, you can mint any of these LSTs. Depending on how you stake with them here, you don't have to just buy it on secondary markets. But yeah, most people will just never have the capital requirements unless they're lowered in the future for a solo staker. Now, I know Rocket Pool is working on a bunch of different things here in order to lower this, but if we're talking pure solo staker without Rocket Pool, even if the requirement was lowered to 1 ETH, that still locks a fair few people out, I think. Because if you believe that ETH is going to go to like 10K, 20K, right, it doesn't even matter. And I've discussed this before on the Refuel about how when you think about lowering the ETH required amount, you can lower, for vanilla solo staking, you can lower it as much as you want. But at the end of the day, ETH, as we all believe, is going to keep going up. So even ETH being worth 5K, it still prices out a lot of people. So if you want to make it as maximally decentralized as possible, what you need to do is you need to basically allow people to stake with any amount of ETH that they have, whether it be 0.01 ETH or 100 ETH or 1,000 ETH or whatever it is, right? And be able to do that in a decentralized and distributed way instead of it centralizing. Now, that was a bit of a tangent there, because what Mike has in this post is not solely focused on kind of like a native liquid staking token design or enshrined staking. It also focuses on other things that could be done, such as like delegated staking and doing it in a trustless way, where essentially you delegate the stake and then the staking node operator can't rug you or anything like that. And there are different technologies to achieve this, but this was basically talking about doing it natively within the protocol, not doing it extra protocol as we see today. Obviously, there is delegation when you're talking about staking today in like Lido and Rocket Pool and other things like Coinbase and whatever, but this is talking about doing it natively in protocol. And honestly, it's a thought experiment at this stage. It's just like thoughts that Mike and Dan Crowd and a bunch of others have kind of come up with here that you can read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But it does open more questions than it answers. You can see here there are 7 open questions about this, and there's still lots to think about. I don't think that we're going to get something like this anytime soon. I think that what we're going to do is we're probably going to improve the Ethereum protocol itself for all of the other kind of staking projects that are built on top of it, like that forced exit EIP that I've talked about before, and those sorts of things. I think those things are going to be what comes to the network, rather than rather than enshrining an LST or making native liquid staking token design in the protocol itself. And it really just falls back to Ethereum's design philosophy, which is really the design philosophy of subtraction, which essentially we want to keep the Ethereum protocol as lean and as kind of like simple as possible, and then push out everything to the ecosystem. So we've done that with layer 2s, we've done that with staking, we're doing it with pretty much like everything really when it comes to the design of Ethereum as a protocol here. But you can go give this post a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, as I'm sure you're all aware by now, Vitalik got SIM swapped, I think yesterday or the day before, and there was a bit of misinformation around this, so I want to clarify some things because Vitalik actually clarified it himself today. So he did not have SMS two-factor authentication enabled on his Twitter account. What happened was that when you sign up for Twitter Blue, you need to provide a mobile number. So you sign up, provide a mobile number, and then that mobile number now gets attached to your account. Even if you're not using it for two-factor authentication, someone can still SIM swap you, then use your mobile number as a recovery method for your Twitter account, and then be able to essentially gain access to your Twitter account. So I just wanted to correct that, because I saw people saying, "Oh, why does Vitalik have SMS 2FA enabled?" He didn't. It wasn't that attack vector, and that's a good reminder to all of you that if you do have your mobile attached to your Twitter account, I highly recommend removing it, because I mean, even if you don't consider yourself a target because maybe you're not someone well known within the industry, I still would recommend removing it, because SIM swapping is just so easy. It is so easy to do. I mean, not just because it's a social engineering vector, but also because think about the people that have the ability to do a SIM swap, right? The carriers have people working, have low level kind of like support people working that have access to SIM swaps. And these people are often based offshore where they're not paid very well. So what do you think is going to happen when a kind of like threat actor goes to them and basically says, "Hey, we'll pay you to do this," right? And then the low level employee can basically say, "Oh, it was an accident," and they're probably not going to get fired over that. I don't know exactly what the kind of consequences would be there, but that sort of stuff happens, guys. So you want to protect yourself. So I would go into your settings. I don't know exactly where it is in the settings, but go into your settings, remove your mobile number from Twitter, and then just used a authenticator, like an authenticator app for your two-factor authentication. Never use SMS for really anything anything two-factor authentication because of the risk of SIM swap here. And people have said, oh, you can just ring up your carrier and tell them not to port your SIM under any circumstance. But there is countless examples of that not being adhered to. And I think, as I said, that's a lot to do with the fact that these threat actors, they're just going to bribe the people at the lowest level that still have access to SIM swaps just to do this for them, right? Or they can just even socially engineer them because that happens quite frequently. But yeah, and the reason why I'm talking about this now is because Dan Romero, who is the founder of Farcaster, said that you can't SIM swap an Ethereum address. And for those of you who don't know, when you sign up to Farcaster, you attach it to your Ethereum address, you sign a message, and that is your private key, obviously signing that message. So unless someone gets access to your private key, there is no way to obviously SIM swap here. Like obviously someone can get access to your private key through a seed phrase leak or anything like that, but what they can't do is that they can't get access to your account by swapping it via a third party, right? By I guess swapping your account access via a third party, which is pretty cool. But obviously there's always the risk about private keys being stolen or leaked, and that's happened plenty of times because of the seed phrase leaks and stuff like that, right? But I think generally, as the wallet ecosystem matures as well, private keys are going to be incredibly hard to get your hands on. They're going to be very, very secure. They're going to be stored in things like the secure enclave on your phone. Obviously, you can already do it with hardware wallets. More people are going to be using hardware wallets to store these things. And then I think eventually the industry will probably get rid of seed phrases for most things, because seed phrases are that kind of really, I guess, like really kind of what's the term I'm looking for? That like that kind of honeypot, right? Where people are like, oh, I know I can get access to this account if I just get their seed phrase, and you're trained to write your seed phrase down on like a piece of paper, and then people will fall for websites that say, hey, put your seed phrase in here and we'll do such and such or whatever. Or people write their seed phrases online, or they save their seed phrases on things like Evernote or any other cloud kind of note taking, or they save it in like a cloud provider, cloud storage provider like Dropbox or anything like that. So this happens. So I think the future will be no seed phrases, to be honest, for people who for like the default, and then people who want it optionally can do it, of course. But yeah, anyway, just figured I'd talk a little bit about the Vitalik kind of SIM swap attempt there and correct a bit of the misinformation that I saw, while also kind of highlighting how Farcaster handles this stuff here. All right, so a bit of an update on Chainlink CCIP today. So Shaman here is a hacker who built a gateway app enabling you to use any EVM blockchain while signing transactions on only one. So for example here, you can sign on Polygon, on the Polygon POS chain, sign a transaction on the Polygon POS chain, pay in Matic, obviously for the fee, and then execute on Optimism. And they said here, a game changer for multi-sig user experience. Now, one multi-sig controls assets across all chains. So this is really, really cool. I think that when you look at the way this kind of works, and as I've mentioned before, how you can basically execute transactions on one chain, you can sign transactions on one chain and have it executed on another chain, it basically solves a lot of those interoperability issues that people have been talking about when it comes to L2s, right? And this was done not only with L2s, this was also done with basically a side chain, because the Polygon POS chain is not a true L2, right? It is a side chain. So and you're paying gas in Matic, not ETH, and then you're executing the transaction on Optimism here, all using the Chainlink CCIP infrastructure. So something that I still think is being slept on, to be honest. This was done on testnet. Obviously, this is not on mainnet yet, from what I know. But yeah, CCIP is definitely being slept on by a lot of market participants right now for one reason or another, and I've gone through this before. I think it's got to do with the fact that I think the Frog Army or the Link Marines on Twitter kind of ruined Chainlink's reputation. At least maybe not Chainlink the team's reputation, but like Chainlink's kind of like image, which is slowly being repaired, of course. But yeah, anyway, that's just an aside. I've talked about that before, but very cool to see this hack here. You can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so I spoke about Espresso systems yesterday and how they're building a shared sequencer network in the context of Optimism. Well, it seems today that Optimism is not the only L2 getting in on the fun. Offchain Labs has announced a partnership with Espresso to bring decentralized and open shared sequencing technology to Ethereum rollups. Now, of course, Offchain Labs are the team behind Arbitrum One, or the Arbitrum ecosystem generally here, and you can actually read about their partnership here, but it's very similar to, I guess, like Espresso working with Optimism, right, where they're trying to build a shared sequencer network so that all of the different rollups can communicate with each other, can interoperate with each other, and essentially have, I guess, like a better fee system as well, and better fee capture for the and better, I guess, like MEV resistance too. Because I've said before, MEV is that last boss of I guess, like when it comes to stabilizing blockchains and making sure that people aren't getting taken advantage of, and making sure that fees aren't just all influenced by MEV. Because I mentioned yesterday how that Jared from Subway account accounts for so much of the fee revenue on Ethereum, and that's just an MEV bot that is taking advantage of a lot of the toxic MEV that exists on Ethereum layer 1, and obviously I'm sure they're doing stuff on layer 2s as well. So that's where things like shared sequences come in, and being able to alleviate some of those issues around transaction ordering. I think Chainlink is working on a bunch of that stuff as well. But yeah, it's all working towards a similar goal, I think. So it's great to see that Offchain Labs has partnered with Espresso, and I'm very curious to see what this kind of looks like when these teams, these L2 teams, start decentralizing their sequences and start letting people run whatever sequences they want. It's going to be wild to see the economic consequences of that and what MEV looks like in that world there. All right, so I put this tweet out, and this was basically something that I talked about, I think last week or the week before, but I put out this tweet where I said, teams based in the US are building on-chain crypto products and services that they themselves are not legally allowed to use. This is a clown world. So it really is a clown world, guys. I mean, the fact that you can be a US citizen or US person building innovative on-chain financial products and services that you can use to your heart's content in a testing environment, but as soon as you deploy it to production, you are no longer allowed to use it legally because of some regulatory some regulations or some kind of like lack of regulatory clarity. And to me, that's just absolutely ridiculous because when you think about it from their perspective, from the US team's perspective, they're like, okay, well, I'm based in this country. I'm paying taxes in this country. I'm working in this country. I'm kind of like increasing the economic activity of this country and bringing, I guess, more people into this I guess, like economy, for example. But I can't even access the products legally and services that I'm building because of some lack of regulatory clarity or whatever else there is, or some laws. And this obviously isn't just limited to products like financial products. It's also limited to things like Tornado Cash, for example. I think a couple of the Tornado Cash developers are US citizens. And so for them, obviously they built this stuff, they deployed it, and now they're arrested for money laundering charges. And of course, like even if it wasn't for those charges, it'd still be illegal for them to use their own product that they have kind of deployed here for, in my eyes, kind of really weak reasons, right? And just because there's not regulatory clarity here. And the reason why I tweeted this out is because I was reminded recently, I think it was last week or the week before, where Antonio from DYDX basically said that they're building DYDX as a US-based team and none of them can use that product, which is just ridiculous. And I wonder how it's handled in the sense that, well, they can't use the product directly, but they still have to maintain the product. They still have to make sure that the product is getting features. They still have to do customer support and all this stuff. So really, at the end of the day, like, it just doesn't make any sense. It makes things look really weird. It makes things look clownish, as I said here, right? Clown world, and it makes zero sense. So I'm hoping that we do get that more kind of regulatory clarity over time that helps these US-based teams. Otherwise, what do you think the logical conclusion is here? the logical conclusion is that these US-based teams are not going to be US-based for very long. They're going to move. They're going to get out of the US, and they're going to have to obviously default block American users as they have been, and then America or the US is the one that loses out in the end. So I really hope that the politicians in the US and the regulators can wisen up to this and can wake up to this. I know that different regulators have their own agendas. Like, for example, Gary Gensler, obviously, he's just a puppet for Elizabeth Warren, who is part of the wider kind of like upper echelons of the Democratic Party, who have a very negative view of, I guess, like crypto, especially DeFi. And I don't know what it's going to take to change that. I don't know if it's going to take an administration change. Like if, for example, the Republicans win the presidency next year, that will definitely change things. Like they'll fire Gary Gensler on day one, basically, if that happens, which is, I guess, kind of okay. But at the same time, if they just end up putting someone in there that isn't going to afford us any regulatory clarity, isn't going to advance legislation, then it's kind of moot, because then the worst thing that could happen is that the Republicans win, right, in the presidency next year. They fire Gary Gensler, they put someone there, they rejig the whole kind of apparatus to put Republican aligned people there, but then 4 years later, nothing, over those 4 years till the next presidential election, nothing gets changed, nothing improves, nothing happens for one reason or another, and then the Democrats win again, and then we haven't really moved the needle here. So it's not just going to take an administration change, it's going to take that change and also for action to be done on these fronts. And I think that the only way that action is going to be done is if that we continue to educate and lobby, for better or worse, these politicians in the US. And there are a lot of different groups doing this, and a lot of it happens in the background, so you won't hear about it that often. And also going to court and beating these regulatory bodies in court, which obviously isn't for everyone. Not a lot of teams can afford to go to court, especially against behemoths like the SEC. But I think we're going to see more and more teams take up the challenge now that the SEC has lost two major cases, the Ripple case and the Grayscale case. It emboldens these teams to say, well, it seems like I've got a really good chance of winning this. It will be worth the upfront kind of cost that I'm going to have to dish out to do this. So yeah, I think we're going to be seeing more of that. But anyway, moving on from that, just wanted to give a quick shout out here to Bankless. So I don't usually shout out the projects that Bankless has on, because I think it's kind of a conflict of interest a lot of the times for me, because a lot of the projects they have on have tokens, and a lot of the time I'm actually invested in that as a angel investor. But this project, Ethereum Attestation Service, they don't have a token. They're a public good, and it is one of the coolest non-financial products that we have in Ethereum today. I know the two guys here, Bryce and Steve. I've been talking to them for quite a while about it, and I've highlighted Ethereum Attestation Service on the Refuel plenty of times. I highly recommend going and giving this episode a watch and listen. It is great, and it really showcases the power of Ethereum in a non-financial context. So I just wanted to give a shout out there for that one. You can go check that out. We'll link it in the YouTube description below. And also, I just want to give a shout out to cryptocurrency jobs as well. So I saw this tweet that they basically listed a bunch of teams that are hiring in crypto right now. Look at all these teams, guys. Like, you'll recognize a lot of them, Chainlink, Grid Plus, Athena, Nethermind. I'm just going through the list here. Safe, Chain Safe Status, and hundreds more on the cryptocurrency jobs website. So it might be a bear market for prices, but it seems like teams are still hiring, but maybe not at the same clip as they once were in the bull market. But it seems like teams are still very much hiring, and if you're interested in getting a job in crypto, now is probably the best time to do it in a bear market where there's less competition for these roles. You probably get more favorable terms in terms of like a salary and potentially token allocations or equity allocations and things like that. So yeah, go check that out, and definitely keep your eye on the cryptocurrency jobs website too. They're really great. I know the owner. I've known him for quite a while. He's a good friend of mine. I'm not getting any kickbacks for this, by the way, or it's not a paid ad or anything. I just helping out a service and a friend that I'm a very, very big fan of. So you can go check that out. We'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, just to round out today's episode was a poll that I put out today. There's still 15 hours left of this poll, but I think we've got most of the results here. So I asked people, do you still remember what a crypto bull market feels like? 47.6% of people said yes. 52.4% of people said no. Now, I don't know where you guys fit in this spectrum. I would say personally that I'm beginning to forget what a bull market feels like, because it has been so long now. And it actually started today, but that's why I put this poll out, because I was like, wow. I was just sitting here and I was kind of like looking at some charts, and I was like, okay, like the price has done fucking nothing for so long, right? Excuse my language, but it's done nothing for so long. And then I was thinking back to the bull market in 2021 and 2020. I'm like, do I even remember what that feels like? Do I even remember what it feels like to watch the price actually go up for sustained periods of time? And it at least it feels like to me right now that I don't remember that personally. But it seems like half of the people still remember what it feels like, which I don't know whether you want to take this as bullish or bearish. Maybe it's bearish and maybe we need that yes percentage to be down at like 20-30% for us to kickstart the next bull market. I don't know. I don't think it really has any bearing on that, but it was just like more of a personal thing for me because as I said, like I really just today have forgotten what a bull market feels like, which I actually think is kind of bullish because if the biggest perma bull for ETH that you could probably, I guess, like imagine, to be honest, is feeling this way, I'm sure there are others feeling this way, and then maybe they don't want to admit that as well because, it sucks to admit stuff like that, right, for a lot of people because if you're publicly really bullish and a perma bull, it sucks for you to admit that, I don't remember what a bull market feels like, I'm feeling really bearish right now. I mean, I'm not feeling bearish at all, to be honest. Like, there's nothing to be bearish about in my mind. As I said yesterday when I went over the 4-year cycle stuff, we're still playing out the cycle just fine. And when it comes to Ethereum's fundamentals, never been stronger, guys. It just keeps getting, I don't know how it happens, but it just keeps getting stronger and stronger over time. And I really think that once we end out this year, we wash out the rest of the people that are going to get washed out, next year is going to be super positive, and I will get to feel we all will get to feel what it feels like to experience a crypto bull market again. But of course, after that, we're going to get another bear market, and who knows, another 2 years of what we've just seen for the past 2 years. But such is life in crypto, right? We go through the pain, we go through the shitty times for the good times, and trust me, guys, the good times will come back. It's not always going to be bad times. I know it may feel like it sometimes, but it's not going to be. I'm not going to, you guys know I don't like guaranteeing anything. I don't like saying anything is 100% certainty. But when it comes to market cycles, 99% market cycles are always going to play out very similar to how they've always played out. We have hundreds and hundreds of years worth of data on this, and fading that I think is not something smart to do. But anyway, enough of the market talk. I'm going to end it there for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.